The kiss lasted exactly 3 seconds. 3 seconds that changed everything for Jack Reeves, a struggling single father who drove for a living, and Eliza Blackwell, the heiress to Boston's largest real estate empire. As the ambulance lights flashed against the rain-slicked streets, neither of them could have imagined how those 3 desperate seconds would upend their lives and captivate an entire city. If you're enjoying this incredible true story, please hit that like button and subscribe to our channel for more extraordinary tales of fate, love, and redemption that prove truth really is stranger than fiction. Jack's day had started like any other, waking before dawn in his cramped apartment in Dorchester, careful not to disturb 8-year-old Lily who slept in the room's only bed while he took the couch. The apartment was small but clean, the refrigerator adorned with Lily's artwork and her latest math test with a proud red A circled at the top. He'd been both mother and father to her since his wife Sarah's death 3 years ago, a responsibility that weighed on him every morning as he prepared Lily's lunch and dropped her at his neighbor Mrs. Patel's apartment before heading to work. "Don't forget, Daddy, it's the science fair tonight," Lily reminded him, her gap-toothed smile making his heart ache with love. "Wouldn't miss it for the world, kiddo," Jack promised, kissing the top of her head. He meant it, though keeping promises had become increasingly difficult since taking on extra driving shifts to cover Lily's asthma medication. At 34, Jack's life had become a careful balancing act. His job driving for Elite Ride, Boston's premium car service, paid better than standard rideshare work, but the hours were long and unpredictable. The company catered to Boston's elite, executives, politicians, and the occasional celebrity, all expecting perfection from the moment they stepped into his immaculately maintained black Audi sedan. That rainy Tuesday in April, Jack had been assigned to the Blackwell account, a name that carried weight throughout Boston. Blackwell Properties owned half the skyline, their name emblazoned on gleaming towers that Jack passed daily but would never set foot in. His passenger was Eliza Blackwell, the 30-year-old heir apparent to the Blackwell fortune, scheduled for a routine pickup from her Beacon Hill office to a charity gala in Back Bay. Eliza Blackwell lived in headlines and society pages. The public knew her as the Ice Queen of Boston real estate, brilliant, beautiful, and utterly untouchable. What they didn't see was the exhaustion that had settled into her bones after years of trying to prove herself worthy of the Blackwell name to her demanding father, Richard Blackwell, a man who measured worth solely in dollars and deals closed. When Jack arrived at the Blackwell building, Eliza was already waiting, sheltered from the rain by the doorman's umbrella. She wore a midnight blue gown that caught the streetlights, her dark hair swept into an elegant updo that emphasized her high cheekbones and the slight furrow between her brows. "Good evening, Ms. Blackwell," Jack said, holding the door for her. She barely acknowledged him as she slid into the back seat, immediately taking out her phone. "There's been a change of plans. I need to stop at the Harrington Gallery first. They're unveiling a piece I've acquired." "Of course," Jack replied, pulling smoothly into traffic. The rain intensified as they drove, drumming against the roof in a steady rhythm. Through the rearview mirror, Jack noticed Eliza's reflection, not the composed businesswoman from magazine covers, but someone who looked almost vulnerable as she stared out at the rain-blurred city lights. "Everything all right back there, Ms. Blackwell?" he asked, breaking protocol. Elite Ride drivers weren't supposed to initiate conversation. She seemed startled by the question. "I'm fine," she said curtly, then hesitated. "Just a difficult day." Nothing that would make sense to, she stopped herself. "To someone like me?" Jack finished with a slight smile in the mirror. For the first time, she really looked at him. "I was going to say to someone outside the insanity that is my family business. Try me. I've got good ears." Perhaps it was the anonymity of the car, the cocoon of privacy created by the rain, or simply that she hadn't spoken honestly to anyone in months, but Eliza found herself talking. About her father's expectations. About the deal she'd lost that day to a competitor. About how, at 30, she still felt like she was constantly auditioning for her own life. "Sorry," she said finally. "I don't usually unload on strangers." "Sometimes strangers are the best listeners," Jack replied. No history, no judgment. A small smile touched her lips. And what about you? What's your story? Jack hesitated, then told her about Lily, about being a single dad, about the constant juggling act of work and parenthood. Actually, I'm supposed to be at her science fair tonight. My shift ends at 7, so I should make it just in time to see her project on the water cycle. She sounds wonderful, Eliza said softly. She's everything, Jack answered simply. They were approaching the gallery when it happened. A delivery truck ran a red light, heading straight for their passenger side. Jack reacted instantly, swerving to avoid a direct hit, but the truck clipped their rear, sending the car spinning across the wet pavement. The airbags deployed with a deafening bang as they crashed into a streetlight. The next few moments were chaos. Jack, dazed but conscious, turned to check on Eliza. She was slumped against the door, a trickle of blood running from her temple, unresponsive. Ms. Blackwell? Eliza? Jack called, unbuckling his seatbelt and maneuvering into the back seat. Her pulse was weak, her breathing shallow. He called 911, the dispatcher's voice calm as she asked for details. She's not responding, Jack said, panic rising in his throat. She's breathing but... Sir, does she have any medical alert jewelry? Any indication of medical conditions? Jack's eyes fell to Eliza's wrist where a delicate medical alert bracelet caught the light. He read the engraving aloud, severe allergy to bee stings, carries EpiPen. Check her purse, the dispatcher instructed. She may be having an allergic reaction. Jack found the small black purse on the floor, dumping its contents onto the seat. Among the lipstick and keys was an EpiPen, but as he examined it, his heart sank. It had expired months ago. The EpiPen is expired, he told the dispatcher, watching as Eliza's lips began to take on a bluish tint. Her breathing is getting worse. Ambulance is 4 minutes out, the dispatcher said. Does she have any other symptoms? Swelling of the lips or tongue? Jack gently tilted Eliza's face toward him and saw the telltale swelling beginning around her mouth. Yes, her lips are swelling. What do I do? I can't wait 4 minutes. The dispatcher's voice remained steady. Sir, listen carefully. In severe allergic reactions, sometimes antihistamines in the mouth can help slow the reaction until emergency services arrive. Do you have any antihistamines? Jack didn't, but then he remembered his own daily allergy medication. He always took it in the morning, but the taste lingered. It wasn't much, but it might help. I took an antihistamine this morning, he told the dispatcher. Would it help if... He couldn't believe what he was considering. Sir? Are you there? Would it help if I kissed her? To transfer some of the antihistamine from my mouth to hers? The question sounded absurd even as he asked it. There was a pause. That's not a standard recommendation, but in this emergency situation, any antihistamine might help slow the reaction. The paramedics are almost there. Jack looked at Eliza, her breathing becoming more labored by the second. He made his decision. I'm sorry about this, he whispered, then gently pressed his lips to hers, trying to ensure some transfer of saliva where the medication might still be present. It was clinical, desperate, a last resort to keep her alive until help arrived. 3 seconds. That's all it was. When he pulled away, he heard sirens approaching. The paramedics arrived moments later, quickly assessing Eliza and administering epinephrine. As they loaded her into the ambulance, one of them turned to Jack. Quick thinking with the antihistamine, she said. That might have bought her the time she needed. Jack stood in the rain, watching the ambulance pull away, the taste of Eliza's expensive lipstick still on his lips. It was only then that he realized, he was going to miss Lily's science fair. The story might have ended there. A bizarre emergency, a desperate measure, 2 lives briefly intersecting before returning to their separate orbits. But Boston had other plans. Someone had recorded the aftermath on their phone, Jack leaning over Eliza, the kiss, the ambulance arrival. By morning, the video had gone viral, the headline spreading across social media, "Driver kisses billionaire heiress in desperate attempt to save her life." Jack discovered this when his phone began ringing non-stop the next morning. Friends, fellow drivers, even reporters wanting his story. He ignored them all, focusing instead on Lily, who had been disappointed but understanding about the missed science fair. "Were you really in an accident, Daddy?" she asked over breakfast, her eyes wide. "Yes, but I'm okay," he assured her. "The lady I was driving got hurt, though. Is she going to be all right?" Jack didn't know. "I hope so, kiddo." He dropped Lily at school and headed to the elite ride office, expecting to be fired. Kissing a client, even to save their life, had to violate company policy. His supervisor, Martinez, called him into his office immediately. "Reeves," Martinez said, his expression unreadable. "You've become quite the celebrity overnight." Jack winced. "Look, I can explain." "No need. Ms. Blackwell's assistant called this morning. She's recovering at Massachusetts General and would like to see you." Jack blinked in surprise. "She wants to see me?" "Apparently, she'd like to thank the man who saved her life." Martinez handed him a piece of paper with a room number. "Take the day off. Paid." An hour later, Jack stood outside room 412 at Mass General, feeling distinctly out of place. He knocked softly and heard a quiet, "Come in." Eliza Blackwell looked different in a hospital gown, without makeup, her dark hair loose around her shoulders. The imperious businesswoman was gone, replaced by someone who appeared younger, more vulnerable. And 4 ran into her arm, and monitoring equipment beeped steadily beside her bed. "Mr. Reeves," she said, her voice slightly hoarse. "Please, sit down." Jack took the chair beside her bed. "How are you feeling, Ms. Blackwell?" "Alive, thanks to you." She studied him with those intelligent eyes. "The doctor said I was stung by a bee that must have gotten into the car. With my expired EpiPen." She shook her head. "They said your quick thinking probably saved my life." Jack shifted uncomfortably. "About that. I'm sorry for the, unorthodox method." To his surprise, Eliza laughed, then winced as it pulled at her fore. "You mean kissing me without permission? I think life-saving circumstances grant you an exception." Her expression softened. "Truly, Mr. Reeves." "Thank you." "Jack," he corrected. "And you're welcome, though I'm sure anyone would have done the same." "I'm not so sure about that." She hesitated. "I understand you missed your daughter's science fair because of me." Jack tried to hide his surprise that she remembered. She understood. "These things happen. Still, I'd like to make it up to her. To both of you." Before Jack could respond, the door opened, and a tall, distinguished man with silver hair and Eliza's same penetrating eyes entered. Richard Blackwell, Boston's real estate king, looked exactly like his photos in the business section, imposing, immaculately dressed, radiating authority. "Eliza," he said, barely glancing at Jack. "The board meeting has been rescheduled for next week. Peterson sends his regards." He finally turned to acknowledge Jack. "And this is?" "This is Jack Reeves," Eliza said. "The driver who saved my life." Richard Blackwell's gaze sharpened. "Ah, yes. The man from the video." He extended his hand. "The Blackwell family appreciates your quick action, Mr. Reeves. The company will, of course, compensate you appropriately." "That's not necessary," Jack said, shaking his hand. "Nevertheless." Richard turned back to his daughter. "I've arranged for a private nurse when you're discharged tomorrow. I expect you'll need at least a week before returning to the office." "I'll be back on Monday," Eliza said firmly. Richard's mouth tightened, but he nodded. We'll discuss it later. I have another meeting. He left without further acknowledgement of Jack. When the door closed, Eliza sighed. I apologize for my father. Emotional expression isn't his strong suit. He seems concerned about you, Jack offered. He's concerned about the Harrington deal I'm supposed to close next week. She shook her head. But enough about that. Tell me more about your daughter. Lily, right? Jack found himself talking about Lily, her science project, her love of astronomy, her struggle with asthma, her resilience after losing her mother. Eliza listened with genuine interest, asking questions and laughing at Jack's stories of 8-year-old logic. She sounds remarkable, Eliza said when a nurse came in to check her vitals, signaling the end of their visit. She is, Jack agreed, standing to leave. I'm glad you're recovering, Ms. Blackwell. Eliza, she corrected with a small smile. And Jack? Thank you again. For everything. Jack nodded and left, certain their paths would never cross again. The universe had different plans. 3 days later, Jack and Lily returned home from her Saturday morning soccer practice to find a package outside their apartment door. Inside was a state-of-the-art telescope with a note, for the future astronomer. Thank you for sharing your father with me that night. Eliza Blackwell. Lily's eyes widened to saucers. Is this from the lady you saved? Looks like it, Jack said, equally stunned by the generous gift. Can we thank her? Please, Daddy. That evening, Jack sent a text to the number Eliza had included with the gift. The telescope is incredible. Lily hasn't stopped looking at the instruction manual. You really didn't have to do that. The response came quickly, I wanted to. Is she enjoying it? She can't wait for dark to try it out. She's already planned our whole evening on the roof. There was a pause before the next message. Would it be terribly inappropriate to ask if I could join you? I've never actually used a telescope. Jack stared at his phone, trying to process the request. Eliza Blackwell wanted to come to his Dorchester apartment building to look at stars with him and Lily? We'd love that, he typed before he could overthink it. But I should warn you, our building isn't exactly Beacon Hill. I think I can handle it. What time? That night, Eliza Blackwell, heiress to billions, sat on a tattered blanket on the roof of Jack's apartment building, listening intently as 8-year-old Lily explained the constellations with the authority only a child can muster. And that's Orion's belt, Lily said, pointing. Daddy and I always look for it first because it's easy to find. It's beautiful, Eliza said, genuinely awed by the clarity of the stars through the telescope. She was dressed simply in jeans and a sweater, her hair pulled back in a ponytail, looking nothing like the Society Page's version of herself. Jack watched them, struck by the surreal nature of the moment. Eliza caught his eye and smiled, a real smile that transformed her face. Later, after Lily had finally been persuaded to go to bed, Jack and Eliza sat on the roof with cups of coffee, talking as the city hummed below them. Thank you for tonight, Eliza said. I can't remember the last time I just looked at the stars. Thank you for the telescope. It was incredibly generous. She waved away his thanks. It was the least I could do. She hesitated. Can I ask you something personal? Jack nodded. How do you do it? Balance everything as a single parent? Jack considered the question. Not always well, he admitted. There are days I feel like I'm failing at everything. But